Back in the Limitless Leadership Lounge, I'm Jon Goehring, joined by Coach Jim Johnson, and it's a couple of months into the year now, and it's time to revisit our habits. A lot of times we get so caught up in the New Year's resolutions at the beginning of the year, and I think there's some power in that. But after what is known as Quitter's Day, the second Friday of the new year, we kind of slide right back into our own ways, and then we come to terms with reality. And the reality is that it's not about resolutions and immediately changing ourselves, but it's about over time developing habits that changes us a little at a time. So, a couple of months into the year, let's focus on habits. So, Coach and I are going to go back and forth and give five non-negotiable habits that we have daily that can really change your life too if you implement them. So, Coach, without further ado, I know you have some pretty powerful habits. What are some of your non-negotiables?
Yeah, I'll start by saying this, that, it's something that I've really tried to work on and try to help when I was a coach, and helping my players build habits. And he doesn't need the promotion, but I will share. I've read a few books on habits, and the one that's really blown up in the last few years is James Clear, Atomic Habits. So I do recommend that you read that. You'll pick up some good ideas and some things I picked up, like his 2 minute rule, where you just start something and do it for at least 2 minutes. Another one is something that's really powerful is if it's something you really develop as a habit, you never miss 2 days in a row. So those are just a couple ideas. And it's going into, so number one for me, and something I've done for a good portion of my life, is exercise. And because I believe if you want to be successful in any endeavor, you need to have energy. And if you don't have energy, you'll tend to struggle in a lot of aspects in your life. So that's why I really encourage people that, I know it's something that's out there, so it's not going to be something new, but having a health goal and starting with blocking time out for exercise. And, one of the things I talk to people about is the famous day bookends, and so how you start your day and how you finish your day. So as I weave through a few of my habits, the first thing I'll say is that's something I almost always start the day with some kind of exercise. Whether it's my cardio, sometimes it's just my stretching routine and maybe a core workout or something. But whatever it happens to be, I usually get some type of exercise early in the day. Now, sometimes I'll exercise later in the day as well because I'm big into it. But I think that's something that you got to really decide. And why I like starting early in the day is because you have no excuses. Get up, get into your little routine, and get into some kind of exercise right away, I think is a great thing. Number two is I'm a person of faith, so I block time out each day to pray, and I try to pray. I'm probably, I know some people do a lot longer than me, but I try to pray between 10 and 15 minutes every day, and I do it on my knees. It's just something that's been big for me. I am a person of faith. I do attend, church on a fairly regular basis, but praying is important to me. So that would be habit two for me. Number three is something I started later in my life, although I encourage my players all the time to take time to sit quietly or meditate. We did a lot of visualization before games, but it's something that I didn't do as well. But now I'm at the point now where I meditate pretty much every single day for 20 minutes. And I have a little routine. Part of it is imagery, part of it is breathing. Part of it is some mantras I share, so there's a lot of apps for that. So whatever works for you, but I think taking some time to sit quietly in whatever form that is something I've been doing pretty regularly for the last few years, and I think has helped me immensely. And then a couple towards the end of the day is I do a gratitude journal. And I would try to write out three things that I do, and I mostly do it at the end of the day. At least three things. Sometimes I'll do six or seven things that I was grateful that happened to me in the day. Now, if I miss that, which I don't do very often, but if I do miss it, Then I'll do start it in my next day. I'll make sure that I write in my gratitude journal the first thing. But for me, it's an end of the day process. I know a lot of people start by just sharing something they're grateful to start the day. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just what you're willing to do. For me, it's the one of the end of the day bookends. And then the last one is I've got more, but I'll stop at five. The fifth one is what I call the daily scoreboard. And in my gratitude, or excuse me, it's in my goals journal, which is another thing. I put six topics that I want to evaluate 1 to 10, 10 being I was extremely successful, one not so good, and sometimes even a zero, although that doesn't happen too often. For me, there's six things that I'm focusing in my life. One, I've already mentioned, is health. So I always evaluate how I do with my health as part of my daily scoreboard. Another one is relationships. How am I doing with my relationship with my family and friends? Another one for me is my speaking because that's my profession now. So, well, how well did I do with that? Because I'm part of a podcast, as John well knows, since we do it together. I want to see how I do with the podcast. Another one is I'm working on a book. So, how I do with the book. And then the last one for me is a personal growth. How did I do for that? So, that would just give you five habits that I do consistently. I do a few more than that, but I'm going to stop at five to give John his turn. But just to review very quickly, it would be exercise is essential, taking time to pray, thirdly, meditation, and then two that usually I do at the end of the day, and that would be my daily scoreboard, and then also my gratitude journal.
Five very powerful habits that I think could change your life too if you implement those or some of those. And like you said, Coach, there's no right or wrong way of doing it, but that works for you. And I think some of those, if you implement, could work for our listeners too. Now, I have to say, my five are there's some overlap because I think there's some universally really good things that you said there. But I start the day before I even start the day. I think the number one really powerful habit that I have is sleep. It's something that I become more cognizant of in recent years because I used to not really care about my sleep and just get as much sleep as I could possibly fit into my schedule. And what I like to think of it now as don't fit your sleep into your schedule, fit your schedule into the time when you're not sleeping because sleep should be not something that you just do as leftover time, but actually prioritize. If you prioritize your sleep and get 8 hours a night, now some people only need 7, maybe even 6 hours of sleep. Some people are just blessed with the ability to be able to run on that sleep. But they say science does say that the majority of us need a good 8 hours of sleep, and that's certainly in my case is the truth. So I really prioritize my sleep, and you have to work backwards. What time do you need to get up in the morning? Want to get up in the morning? Then you need to give yourself at least 8 hours. I try to give myself more like nine, knowing that I'm going to need some time to wind down in the evening without screens, without food or drink. So that's really important to me, and I think it should be important to you too to prioritize your sleep. Don't just give your leftover time to your sleep because there's always more to do in life, and that's always going to mean that your sleep is going to be what suffers. So then once we get up and get moving, my second habit is very similar to yours, Coach. I'm a person of faith as well. So I've really this year installed the habit of reading my Bible every single morning. I'm reading the Bible in a year, which means that I read about 3 chapters a day. So it doesn't take me long. It only takes me maybe about 10 minutes, but it's one of those habits that I like to do. Now, I don't always do it first thing in the morning, even though I should, and I'd like to get into more of that habit, but I will do it sometime during the day if I don't do it first thing in the morning. But that's just a powerful way to connect with God, to learn a little bit more, to take a step back and look at, the important things in life more so than just the day-to-day grind. My number three habit is what I call a power hour. And that's for my business. And this happens every single workday for me as I try to take an hour to not just work not just work in my business, I should say, but work on my business. And that is building relationships, doing things like social media, doing things that are not directly profitable, but can lead to things down the road. And I like to try and find an hour during the day, even if it's later in the day after work hours, to block that time and make sure I'm building those relationships and staying connected with people. Because you can get so caught up, if you're a business owner, you get so caught up working in your business that you forget to actually work on it and improve your business and improve your craft. Number four to me is what I call the daily streak. And this I'm keeping vague because I think it's up to you. Find just one thing, one very small thing that you can do every single day that you start a streak. Because I think gamifying things can be such a valuable way of doing things. So for me, right now, it's 100 push-ups. Coach knows this. I do 100 push-ups every day, and I've been doing it since September 2nd. That was the day that I started, and I only did 50 one day. I'm still upset about November 23rd, but I did do an extra 50 the following day to make up for it. But just start a streak, because watching that number go up and actually counting how many days it's been that you've done this one little thing for just 100 push-ups, it only takes, 5 minutes or less. Um, you can really build some confidence in yourself if you're doing something over and over and over again. And then finally, for me, number five, very important. It's been something that I've never been good at, but trying to get better at, and I've done a better job now doing it, is hydration. Drinking, there's all sorts of formulas based on your weight, how much you actually want to drink. But the bottom line is, I'm no scientist. I can't tell you exactly how much water you need to drink. All I know is that chances are you need to drink more than you're drinking right now. Chronic dehydration is a big issue in our world, and I've noticed the difference when you start drinking more water. Yes, yeah, you spend a little more time in the restroom at first, especially, but that goes away as it goes on. As you start drinking more consistently, you actually that actually starts to go away. So you drinking more, you have more energy. You're actually less likely to get sick, and ultimately you just feel better all around. So hydration is a habit that I've tried to instill into my daily life. So there's my five as well. Coach, you had a powerful five too. So those are 10 habits that you can implement into your daily life that might improve your day.
And John, let me just give you, we got to give our listeners just the bonus.
Sure,
But
let's do
so
it.
just very quickly, I will mention one thing because I'm a lot older than John, and when he brought up sleep, being quite a bit younger, I really admire that. And one little tip I'll say about that is work on trying to eat 2 to 3 hours. Finish eating before you go to sleep. That will help you immensely. I know that's changed my sleep patterns. And then my bonus. John mentioned relationships. And one of the things I started doing, it's been probably a couple of years now, is that I send out a personal video every single day. Sometimes I do as many as 5 or 6 in a day, sometimes, but my goal is I got to do at least one personal video, and it could be just a check-in. It could be wishing somebody a happy birthday. It could be a value, like I'm recommending a book or a podcast or something. But I found it a bit, and we got this from a guest of ours on our podcast, is he said to us, video is really big, but how many times do you get a personal video? And he is so right. I rarely ever get a personal video unless I send somebody a personal video, that they often will respond with a personal video. So I just thought that'd be our little bonus. But John, I value your habits as well. And the last thing I'll say is that really try to focus on starting one really good habit after you hear this conversation.
Maybe it just takes one. So whatever habit you're starting, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. You can always email us, limitlessleadershippodcast@gmail.com, or you can shoot us a message up on social media. Coach or I are very active on, especially LinkedIn, I know, for me anyway, and Coach, you're active on multiple social media platforms. So thanks so much for checking out this week's episode of the Limitless Leadership Lounge. We also want to say, if you're enjoying it and getting value from it, leaving us a review up on any of the podcast platforms is greatly appreciated. It helps us become more visible to other podcast listeners who are looking to grow themselves daily through better habits, and also it gives us some feedback on what to incorporate more on our show. So thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next week on the Limitless Leadership Lounge.